Surgery time? Or maybe you just have a puppy wound that needs some healing. Well, you've probably heard these called the cone of shame before. And that's because it seems like our dogs look so shameful when wearing these cones. Well, I'm a certified trainer and I kind of speak canine communication. So believe me when I tell you, it's actually not shame they're feeling. It's discomfort and confusion and stress. And I hate to see it because it does not have to be this way. So in today's video, we are going to go over how to get your dog used to the cone. I really hope you are tuning in a few days or weeks or even months before your dog has to use the cone. That would be ideal. But even if you're tuning in at the same moment that your dog is wearing it, stick with me to the end. I'm going to help you deal with it. Michelle here with How to Train a Dream Dog. Okay guys, that subscribe button isn't going to click itself. You better click it now while you remember so that you get notified when another great video is ready. Alright, before we talk about how to get the dog used to the cone, let's first talk about which kind of cone we might be using here. Now, there are a lot of different types to pick from, and you really have to pick the one that's right for your dog. But in this household, we like to use the donut inflatable one for Wesley, my standard poodle. It's a little more softer and a little more comfortable for him. But for some pups that use this donut, they can still get to their incision. Pro tip, put a little dab of peanut butter by the surgery site. Now, if they can get to it when this is on, it's time for a better fitting one. And of course, just wipe off that peanut butter. We don't want to leave it there. This was only to see if they could get to that incision site wearing that particular cone. This narrow one, called a Nova Guard, which we use actually on my Great Dane Harper and my Cavalier Pickles, can also work well because it's going to fit better through doorways and crate doors, and there's a place for their ears to hang out and get airflow. Speaking of the crate, this is going to be a very important part of the recovery process because it's going to be the place to keep your dog calm and relaxed. If you've done your crate training, that is. Just be sure that the crate is big enough that the cone doesn't get stuck in there. You do not want a pup to panic, and this could make the problem worse and rip some stitches out if they're panicking with a cone on. Now, if your dog and his cone truly cannot fit in the crate, you might have to use a small puppy pen as a puppy-proofed area for recovery time. Be sure to do some fun crate training games when the cone comes off so he remembers that the crate is a sleeping spot and a positive place. Once you've figured out which kind of cone might work best, it's time to start the desensitization process. I have 2 words that I want you to remember throughout the entire process. Go slow. It is the hardest thing for our human brains to do, to take the training at the pace the dog is most comfortable doing. But I promise you that if you can go slow and you work up to the comfort of the cone, you'll have a much happier dog, a better relationship, and a more peaceful home. Here's what not to do. Do not just put the cone on the dog and start feeding your dog treats. This is going way too fast and he's probably going to be stressed. And he might not even take the treats. Did you know that that's actually one of the signs that a dog is overstressed or over the threshold? They can't take treats, or they take them forcefully or way too quickly. That means that whatever is going on, it's too much for the dog, and there won't be any learning taking place. Now, understanding your dog's stress signals is really going to be important when we work through things like this, like introducing a foreign and possibly uncomfortable object, like a cone. This is the same with nail clippers or blow dryers or any other tool that you might need to introduce to your dog. Now, I have a great video on that if that's something you're struggling with. All right, here we go. Introducing the cone in 5 easy steps. All right, step 1, positive introduction. I've got Pickles here. He's going to help me with this. We're going to start to simply show our dogs the cone. Take the cone out of the package and leave it on the floor. Just leave it there. Let your dog naturally check it out and walk around it and be curious. All right, while he's checking it out, you can toss some treats down on the floor, right? Just to make a positive association with that while he's checking out that new thing. He's gonna think, oh wow, these are tasty treats. What's going on here? Alright, well I totally humanized that, but you get the idea. But sometimes putting things in human terms really helps you understand what the puppy is experiencing. Now, you might leave the cone down for a little while to help your dog get used to it. Maybe that's a few minutes, a couple hours, or even maybe just left out all day. If he's not biting at it or he's not chewing at it, let it sit out for a while. Let it become no big deal. Now, if he does express some interest in it, encourage him with praise and body language and treats. Now, if he's stressed by it, immediately pick it up and only bring it out for a few moments at a time the next training session. All right, positive interaction is step number 2. Next, we want to start to play some games with the cone. Now, if you're following my online course, surely you know all about the bump it game. That's the one I like to start with if the object's not something that the dog really fears. Now, if the dog fears it, it's likely because the human has rushed the process, and that means you have to start even further back in the training process. Now, if he's merely curious, then encourage the dog to have more interactions with it. Now, you might want to play hide and seek with the cone, or use some sort of other game like focus, or incorporate it into any of the other training games. All right, another fun one is to use the cone as a plate for some meals or some tasty snacks. So we just want to make sure that the reaction to the cone is mild and that he's interested, and of course that the food is high enough value. So as you can see, he's eating off of the cone, or at least out of the cone. Alright, if the association with the cone is too negative, it could make the food negative too. Pretty sure that didn't happen here. So you need to gauge very carefully. Let's talk about step number 3. Advance the puppy's interaction. Now it's time to start getting the cone closer to how it's going to naturally be used. This means putting it closer to your dog's head and feeding the dog through the cone. So that's going to look something like this. Now, you're not putting the cone on at this time. You're just starting to put the cone into position so that your dog gets used to the cone being in front of them and eventually getting put on. So resist the urge to push the cone on or over your dog's head. Now remember, all of these steps need to be done over days or weeks, not in all one session like we are. Now, the end goal is to get your dog to put their head into the cone on their own, and that comes in the next step. So step number 4, brief use of the cone. Now it's time to use the cone as it naturally would be used. Again, this is only if your dog is going to tolerate it. You might put it on for just a few seconds and then take it off. Be careful not to treat this as a competition. This is not how long can I leave it on and how fast can I work up to 2 hours. You're going to want to bounce around here on your timing. So it might look like this. It might be something like 2 seconds on and then you take a break, and then 5 seconds on and then you take a break, and then 3 seconds and then you take a break, and then 10 seconds and maybe back down to 2 seconds again. You see how I changed it up there? I didn't make it linear. That prevents the dog from picking up on the pattern and having an adverse reaction to longer times with the cone on. Now, you're going to know that you're on the right track when the cone appears and the dog looks to you or the hand for the treat. This is a good thing and means that the cone is becoming associated with something positive. Alright, step number 5 is going to be revisit the games. You probably thought that I was just going to recommend that you just increase the time with your dog while they're wearing the cone. Not so fast, human. It's always a good idea to go back and revisit some of the training games you did earlier when you first introduced the cone, such as just putting it on the ground and letting him check it out and tossing the treat on the floor. This helps further associate it with something good and readjusting any negative feelings that might have crept up. Now, you might save a few extra special training treats for this purpose, and definitely bring your birthday party energy when you play these games. Let's do a mindset check here. I want you to think about the time your dog has to wear the cone as a performance. Now, performance time is a time to showcase all the skills that you've been practicing. Most performers practice so much they're almost guaranteed not to make a mistake during the show. That's the outlook I want you to have while working on this skill with your dog. Now, if you've practiced it so much that he's almost certain to have no problem whatsoever when the cone goes on, you're good. Now, if you aren't sure how he's going to do, well, that means you need some practice, more practice. Keep in mind that at the time the cone is needed, it will not be your dog's finest hour. He's likely going to be stressed from all the craziness at the vet's office. He might be in pain from the procedure and likely woozy with pain medications or recovery from anesthesia. This is not the time to be introducing new things to him like any kind of cone. So if he's so comfortable with the cone that he thinks it's no big deal, You've done a great job. Before I go, I just want to touch on a few things that are often recommended when we're talking about cones. Some people swear by the little onesies that you can put on a dog to prevent them from getting to their incisions. Here's what I have to say about that one. Nope, nope, and nobody nope. It's really creating one problem by trying to solve another problem. So those onesies can actually irritate the incision and make it worse. Just like all types of clothing for dogs, they can be foreign and bothersome to the dog. They need to be desensitized, just like the cone. And clothing on dogs actually cuts out their ability to communicate. So you could be missing some important clues about how your dog's feeling by masking his body language. But my number one reason for why you should use a cone and not a onesie: safety. Now, I talk about crate safety in this recent video, but clothing in the crate, just like bedding or plush toys, can often become a chewing hazard. Can you imagine having to go back to the vet for an emergency obstruction surgery on top of what your dog just went through? Now, it may seem like the onesie is easier, but it's just easier for the human. It's actually much worse for the dog. Just bite the bullet. Do the work on the cone training. Besides, the onesie will just have to be taken off when you have to take them out to go potty. The cone is something that you'll want to maintain a relationship with for the lifetime of your dog. Harper, my Great Dane, is almost 9 years old. She just recently had to wear a cone for quite some time due to some infections she had in her leg. Now, she would not leave that area alone, and it just wasn't healing, so it was time for the cone. It actually helped her sleep better because the wound healed and she couldn't get at it. She just napped instead. I guarantee you she wasn't saying to herself, "Harper, it's late. You have to be up early to bark at the neighbors, so you better get to bed now." Nope, she just felt agitated on her leg and went to work on it in the way the dogs do, by licking and chewing and trying to make the pain or discomfort go away. So the human, that's me, swooped in and made it a better situation for her. Now, when I say the human is the critical thinker in the relationship, that's what I mean. And that's for all time, not just when they're puppies. All right, one final thing. What do you do if your dog has to wear the cone and you haven't had a chance to work on it yet? Well, there are still options. You're going to want to put in a little more time, have those tasty treats even more tasty, and be ready to work on it. The cone is there to make sure the dog doesn't bother the incision or the infection or the injury. But you, the human, you need to work on that too. Now, if you're supervising your dog, you can take the cone off and start working on it with him. Now, you can often fast track the process by using sleep time in your favor and working with the dog when resistance is low, using very high value treats like cheese or hot dog or even chicken, giving the dog a break from the cone when you're supervising so he gets a chance to relax. There's no magic formula. Sometimes you just have to muddle through and do the best you can. But this is your signal that it's time to keep up the cone training when your dog doesn't need it. Just try to have a lot of patience with your dog. This is not a good experience for him, and he's really counting on you to make it an even easier one for him if you can. Now, putting it on him with no training, then taking a video while the whole family is laughing, is definitely not respectful of him and only makes the situation worse. One final thought. If your dog is in recovery and the vet suggests limiting its activity, you might be going a little crazy now after hearing that. I have a video on that for you. It's filled with lots of ideas on how to keep your dog physically and mentally busy while healing. Okay, that's all the time I have for you today, but if you hit that subscribe button, we can meet again just like this in a future video. In the comments below, tell me what you've learned from this video and how you're going to apply it to your pup.